But
Yep.
if you come up, like a lot of wise guys from New York came up, Boston, patriarchal families, they loved it here. And the
Hmm.
local Springfield faction, all these guys were very wealthy guys,
Yeah.
made money, and they were capable. And they were very capable. They were capable of killing. They were capable at earning. And when I say an empire within an empire, they controlled it all. Like there wasn't a vice or racket that they didn't
Wow.
have, they didn't dominate, And I think it's because, once you leave New York, it's smaller cities. There's
Yeah.
not like, you're not fighting with five families. It was
No.
just, us here in Western Mass. Then you got Connecticut, you had some patriarchas. Further up, you had a few Gambinos and
Hmm.
Columbus, but mostly to the large part, and especially after the patriarchas took a huge bust in the early '90s, we pretty much
Hmm.
all. So just think of all this. We're putting machines out. Of course, they're going to put our machines in their bars,
Oh,
restaurants.
sure.
Of course, they're
That's
going
what
to.
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, they're going to bet the sports with us. Someone's loaning out money. You're not going to loan out money because you're afraid you're going to get beat. So they had to be with us.
I was with Raymond Patriarca Jr. when we were, and I was in Milan, Michigan with him, and it was Matty Guglielmi. I
Yeah.
think,
Yep.
yeah, he was a tough guy too. Matty,
Yeah.
he was a good guy too. So I was with a couple of those guys, and they were good people, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really good people. But I like, yes,
And now Raymond's father, I'm telling you, you could put him right up there with Carlo Gambino,
mm,
Tony Accardo in Chicago, the bosses in New York that are legendary. You could put Raymond Patriarca Sr. right up there with him. I mean,
wow, that's cool.
old, like gangster, old school,
Hmm.
of a man he was. And the
I
same
didn't know that.
our boss here, Sam Kafari, I mean, he ruled from the 30s all the way up until he died in his bed in 1984. Never,
Wow.
never went to prison, and he ran this whole faction, Connecticut, Western Mass, Central Mass, all those years. And you never hear
Wow.
anything about him. That's why I kind of like wanted to come out
Yeah.
on the podcast and talk more about them. Because like you just said, Raymond Patriarca. His father was a legend. The guy Guglielmetti was I used to meet with him in Providence when Bruno would take me down before I was straightened out. We used to
Right.
go Providence guys. It's only an hour away, and we work with them.
What did they call him? Matty the Horse too, or no?
No, no,
He had a different nickname, I think. I forget.
good looking Matty or something
Oh
like that.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, because he was in Michigan for a little while, and then I don't know where he had to go. He got transferred or something
Yeah,
like that. And there was another Angelo Bruno with Nick Scarfo that you mentioned. I think he got rid
yep,
of him too. So it was like the
yep,
Brunos. It's similar
yeah,
names. A lot of people.
yeah,
Now, one other thing I want to get for the viewers, because there's a little confusion. Some people they said you were the boss. Sometimes it says that you were a captain or whatever.
right,
But let the viewers know exactly what you were up there, because I think it's important for them to know.
yeah. So outside of New York, you got factions. So
Yes.
there would be, and we're 2 hours away.
Hmm.
So, in the whole Genovese crime family, like Big Nose Sam Kafari, who I
Hmm.
told you ruled for 40 years, he
Hmm.
was a boss. When you read all kinds of articles about him, when you FBI's coming after him, reputed mafia boss, Sam Kafari, reputed mafia boss. You hear that all about the guys that took over. After Sam, it was Skyball Shibelli. After him, it was his brother Babbage Shibelli. After him, it was Anthony DeLabo. After him, it was Al Bruno. After him, it was me. They
Okay.
label us as bosses. In our area, we're a boss. We're a captain in the family. As
Okay.
far you could say it's a captain, but probably
Okay.
like more of a high-ranking captain because you have
Yes.
territory. So nobody, you don't have to answer to nobody. This is all of ours, which that's why I said it made it so lucrative, is that we
Yeah.
didn't have to answer to nobody, and we got New York, one of the biggest families behind us. So in the overall schemes, yes, if you Google and you read all the things and what I got charged with, I was a boss of the best way to say it is I was the boss of the Springfield faction of the Genovese crime family.
Okay,
That's
that's better. Yes.
what you could say.
But see, the way you explained it makes a lot of sense now. But still, to me, down here as a captain, like my captain was Dominic, he is still my boss. And to me,
Yeah.
when you're a captain, you got a crew underneath you. You're a
Right.
boss to me. You know what I mean? Especially
Oh, of
you're
course.
doing, yeah.
Capo means boss, and
Yep.
and I think the only difference is in New York. I mean, the Bonannos must have had 20 captains, so
Yeah.
you're all bosses in your own little crews.
Right.
Outside New York, the territory that existed was large. We had all of Connecticut,
Right.
Central Mass, Western Mass, huge territories. And again, we didn't have to answer to nobody. So think
Yep.
about that. Just picture your crew. You answer the Dominic. Now take your crew outside New
Mm-hmm.
York, and you're
Mm-hmm.
not dealing with no more, every two streets away, there's a beef. This guy, Lucchese's, the
Yep.
Cambinos, they're all the Bananas are all beefing, right?
Yep.
You don't deal with that. You guys are like walking around and no one's there to defy you. How good
That's
it was.
nice.
Yeah, that's why I say we had it so good.
See, I like that. That to me, that's almost like that takes a lot of stress and a lot of pressure off you as well, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Wow.
and if a beef does come up, and it has to go to New York, who's gonna beat us? We're dealing with a large family, one of the largest, Genovese
Right.
crime family. And let's just say a beef does happen to come up. We win 90%, 99% of the time,
Because,
New
yep.
York.
Now, when you wanted to take over now, finally, you came to New York actually to sit down with a couple of the guys. Um, that was actually a pretty good move too, like to actually come down and state your case. You know what I mean? Um, what made you think of that? Just because, like I said, you're kind of like separated, but yet you're still together.
So Joe, that's like a real long story. And it
Okay.
didn't that like I didn't want to kill Bruno. I didn't go
Okay.
down the state case. They printed that in the newspapers because don't forget, for so long there was no people arrested for
Hmm.
it. So they were going with the narrative that I was the prime suspect, and they were
Oh, okay.
I down there. I asked permission. They had informants that would say, because they didn't know the inner workings of everything, that I asked permission to go down there. That's not how it worked. What happened was, real quickly, I'll tell you, Bruno was going to get shelved from being a boss
Okay.
in our area. He was going to get shelved to. They were going to demote him to be a soldier. As this was
Wow.
going on, another faction with us was going to get sentenced, and they a 302 came out saying that he was a made guy. And who do you think that was saying it? That one of the made guys was a made guy was Al Bruno.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was there was a greedy, like I said, the greedy faction down there. When Artie Nigro,
Hmm.
sure you know Artie,
Yep, I heard the name.
Dominic knows him. When he took over and they made him to be a boss, he should have never been in that position to be a boss. What happened? Ernie Muscarello went to prison, and he wanted Artie there. So
Oh.
Artie as a soldier and put him as boss. And then he had this piece of garbage around him named John Bologna. John Bologna was an informant since the 90s, even way before.
Whoa.
I don't know if you know him, John Bologna. You
I
drove
know that yeah.
Jimmy Brown Fiala. He used to be his driver for Jimmy.
Okay.
From
Okay.
for the garbage business for the Gambinos, and
Mhm.
then they chased him. They said he was an informant. So what they did was he ended up coming around Artie, and then between them two, that was destruction of everything in our area because now they started
Uh,
trying to siphon the money from made guys and they were looking to demote Bruno. Once this paper came out, they used that as the tool to get rid of him. And the
now I
Genovese,
get it.
yeah. So the Genovese, like I'm a cousins with Bruno. Like I didn't want to see him get murdered. As
Right.
far he was a gangster, he was a killer, he killed other people. That's the life we got into. He knew it. If he had to
Mhm.
kill, he would kill me. I wasn't directly given the order at first.
Okay.
It wasn't my motive. The only reason I got involved in the murder was because the murder got put out. Artie gave it to Felix Tranghese, who was another made guy. He
Mhm.
wasn't capable of getting the murder done. So I got called
Oh.
to New York, and that's when Artie asked me if I knew what was going on, asked me what was going on. I pretended I didn't know because you're not supposed to know about the murder. You know that. You're not supposed
No.
to know.
No.
If you get told to kill someone, you're not going to tell anybody for two reasons. You don't want to get put, other people to know that you're going to
Right.
about to, that can put you away for life. So I wasn't even supposed to know about it.
Wow.
And then But this guy Felix wasn't capable of doing it. So they called me down to New York, and they said get involved, and
Okay, that's how it happened. I was wondering because, yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up because I